Hey there, welcome back to the table for Mr. President again. So I started this series, as you are probably noticing, on Tabletop Simulator, and now I have the physical copy in front of me. And the largest reason is because the Tabletop Simulator version is missing all of the documentation that you need to play the game. And in some respects, I don't have an issue with that. Sorry about my dog there. I don't have an issue with it, except when you're trying to record and show people the game, the majority of, I was spending a lot of time reading to you instead of letting you actually see where the decision making or the AI was working and whatnot. So I decided to move to a physical copy. And I apologize, it's been like over a week since I last recorded. Largely because life happens. There was a lot going on. And I do want to stress that there was just a failed assassination attempt on a former U.S. president yesterday. That has nothing to do with the timing. I was planning on playing this today. In fact, I was planning on playing this yesterday. It just, life got away from me. But yeah, that is just purely coincidental. Although, all the more reason why, it's actually pretty thematic to get to the table. So, with that said, I need to set this up. I have, if you're here because you want to watch the playthrough, and I know you're probably frustrated because I'm going back to square one. That's fine. I apologize. The big thing is I am going to do like I did before. I'm going to do setup in this video, and then the next video will actually be the playthrough. So, I want to spare you all the time in the world, so go ahead and just quit if that's a problem. We're going to do setup one more time, and I just want to be able to show you like where I'm reading my information, where I'm getting it from, and then you can see the tokens and whatnot. So anyways, welcome to the table, and let's get started. So the first thing that you need to do is we have this cardstock here that if you saw from the tabletop, this was in the tabletop version. And of course, the tokens and whatnot are so much more organized than mine are. So you have the rogue states. So you can see I have the level 1, level 2, and level 3. And then over here on the right are the UN troops. And then there's the unilateral sanction marker. And you have your unstable state and civil wars. And then over here is a bunch of terror group tokens. And my camera. This is why I prefer tabletop. It's really difficult to move the camera around and focus here. And then right here you have the multilateral sanctions tokens. And then what I did was, just from my very little bit of experience of playing the game, some tokens you need to draw from like a jar or, a cup. And so the tension tokens are exactly that. Obviously with Tabletop Simulator, everything's shuffled for you, but we're going to have to go through and grab one. And then same with the UN sanctions tokens, and then also the same for the U.S. military footprint and the UN goodwill. So I put those in these little cups here, and what we can do is we can pull from those as we need to. But these tokens are just there for when the game calls for them, and so those are easy to punch and put aside. The next thing that you'll notice is I have the war board. These are all the wars that are going on in the world. And we're going to verify the information, but basically the U.S. is at war. That's war number 1. And the conflict status is going to be on stalemate. It's U.S. versus Taliban. And the conflict type is going to be air-ground. And then we're going to have to put in our forces. I'm pretty sure one of those is a UN 3 or 2. Which I think is going to be one of these. But we'll get into setup and do all that. Okay, next thing that you want to do is after doing all that, we got, these are the senators that are opposing us, our congressional folks. These are the ones that are our friends. So those are just going to be in their own little cups. And then this is public priorities. So what kind of issues are important to the public? This is presidential priority. So this is the issues that are important to you. This is our cabinet members, or potential cabinet members. And then this is the crisis pool. And the difficulty that we're playing is going to have Russia. This Russia one is going to be in the pool. So this is usually bad things are happening to us. And then this one here is our POTUS abilities. So some of these abilities we're going to start the game with, and some of them are negative abilities like this one, and so forth. I thought I took the negative abilities and put them separately. Maybe that one just got by me, but anyways, I don't think we need the negative abilities because we're not playing on hard, so we don't use those at this point. And then because I've been playing multiplayer, I keep using this table for other purposes. So I have like stuff that's bagged here, but I need to get it back out. I had this game set up, and then of course I have to tear it down, and that's always a problem. One thing here is you got all these cards, and so these are the like we were talking about. They have a black in the corner, or they're the terrorism cards, and then you can see these are the Chief of Staff, exceptional White House resource cards, and yeah, you just got to get all those out and start. And then the green ones are your cascading events. And you get those out and just make your separate card piles. So I'm just going to set those off camera here and have them ready for when we need them. And then these red ones are natural disasters. So all of those are set aside. And then inside of here are tokens that are mostly going to be used to generally, I always call them like the setup tokens. Like they're the ones that like, the turn marker and things like that. And so these are ones that you're going to punch and put on the board at some capacity. Like for example, the bills, this one, that's, I gotta put my camera on auto, if it'll let me. It's not letting me. All right. So these bill ones, I'm going to pause and see if I can fix that. Okay, I at least have the auto on, so hopefully that works much better. Okay, so these are, they have bill numbers on them. They're real easy to spot when you're looking at your chits, when you're trying to punch, your tokens and figure out what they are. So these ones, I don't have them sorted in order. I don't think it's that important. But the one thing that for you to understand is you're going to grab all of these, and they go on your board here under unused bills. So these are bills that are available to be used at some point in the game. And you don't need to have it in two big piles like I do. You can make smaller piles. You can make it a total mess like I just did. It's totally fine. They just need to be in that section of the game board. And then this over here is where they would be passed. And then past legislation goes up here. So those are bills that just haven't been passed. And then you got the these ally rogue groups, and you have C, D, and B. And these you just, I really shouldn't have looked at them. This one, A. So A through D, those just need to be sorted. So I'm just trying to, now the part about this is that when you're taking the turns, remember how you go through the order? What we learned is that here, 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 and here, different countries are going to act. and it's going to be A, B, C, or D. And we don't know which ones, which I think is pretty cool aspect of the game, but at some point they all are going to act. So that's why, all 4 of them are here. So as we draw one, we just put it up here to show that it took its turn, and then we got 3 remaining. And, you're not really supposed to know what they are. So that's the whole point there. And then you have Russia posture. And Russia is over here on the top corner of the board. And I believe we'll just set it to the side here, and then we'll do that during setup. We have these advanced tokens. And there's quite a few of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 advanced tokens. I found 6. 6 advanced tokens. And those go over with the, I believe those go with the unused bills. So in the same section is the unused bills. Let me read it real quick. Yeah, because those are technologies that we can get. Those might go in a different section, but for now that's where I'm going to put it. And then we have this one here, your party. So this is we're going to start the game with split control, but we put this over here to the left. So when you need to use the marker, you just slide it over. Okay, then we have, this one is for APs. So one of the things is I got all my documents here covering the board, but now I got to get them off the board because the number of APs you have, of course, is going to go here on the presidential track. And then this is just more APs, plus 20, plus 30. So we'll just put, them there. And I like to be able to still read the text, but I'm just going to put that there. The current turn, of course, is going to be turn 1. And then legacy points is over here. So I'm just going to put that there. And then prestige, also part of the legacy track, or this track here. And then let's see, what else do we got? We have China, number 2. That goes here because our relations with China are pretty decent. And then legacy points times 10 goes there. Now you could argue that they all just go on the 0 because, you have 0 times 1 and 0 times 10. However you'd like to do it. So we can put those there. And then we also have 0 here. So we could say there's 0 prestige and 0 APs. Those will, of course, change. So then we have some more tokens here. We have the current U.S. action. This is the marker that follows along here to show where we're at. So we're going to go ahead and put that there. And then we have congressional bipartisan cooperation. And I don't remember where it starts in the game, but I'm pretty sure it goes here. And we're just going to put it on right in the middle for now. And then your party relations is how well you get along with your own party. And that is right here. So I'm just going to put it right there above the 5 because I think it starts there, or the 6. And then there's combat effectiveness, or cabinet, not combat. Cabinet effectiveness is going to go here for this chart. And then we have an improving marker or worsening. So what this is if this is going to move up 1 space, it has to improve first. And then if it improves again, then it moves up like that. So this is like a little bit of elasticity in the marker. All right, continuing on with everything I had punched out already. I got another bag here with our dice, which we are going to be able to roll a lot more effectively than what's in Tabletop Simulator. I know somebody said I need to hit the R key. When I press R, the dice literally just does this. It just goes up and then back down. And then maybe it moves a little bit. I don't trust it. It doesn't look right. All right, so then all these blue cards are event cards. They are a nightmare to shuffle. There's too many of them. Cut the deck, shuffle each side, and then bring them together and maybe cut the deck again. It's, however you can do it. They're really difficult to shuffle. And then what I have left is I had some markers I started punching here, which I think I understand how these are going to be used now that we played our little bit that we did. And then I have a million markers that are still unpunched. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move forward and follow the scenario book. And like, for example, I already know from the little bit of playthrough that we did that these markers right here, this is the China posture, the relations with the U.S., and then this is the elasticity marker. Those all go over with China. So if we come over here to the China spot, the trending, so there's the posture, and then this is the relations with the U.S. is going to be one of these, right? And so I'm going to put that up there, and then the trending is a marker that's going to, be used trending or, trending this way or trending that way, right? It's part of the, and then here you're going to have a holding box, right? So that's what that's for. And then right next to it are relations with the U.S. for Russia. So we can put that up there. And then the trending one I can put in the box as well. So that's the kind of stuff that we have. And then we have, I found two more. One's called Russia Acted. And then China Acted. And those you could just put in the holding boxes. And that's just going to show whenever we get to hear Russia or China acts, and then when you get to hear the other one acts. Just in a little bit of playthrough that we've done so far, the tabletop simulator had all the pieces where they're supposed to go. And that helped me immensely with understanding where these should go. Because I look at these are a massive amount of tokens, and I'm like, man, I have no idea what these are for. But now that I, played that little bit that I did, I actually recognize, I would say, 80 to 90% of these. Like, there's a few of these that I'm looking at them like, wow, I have no idea what that's for. One of them is, for example, the Cyber versus Rogue State. That's a weird one. Can't increase this turn. I'm sure there's a reason for it. But yeah, we'll get to those. And a lot of these markers for here, these are for the war boards. When you're at war, what kind of conflict is it? There's a lot of that. And, the current status of the war over here. So anyways, we'll get to those and we'll punch them as the scenario book tells us to. How about that? Because I have a very good idea where a lot of these go, and we'll just wait for that. So let's get into the game itself. One of the things I'm realizing is, for purposes of the camera, I need to be able to put the documentation here so you could read it, and I'm going to be disrupting the board, specifically my action points and this. Now, the dilemma I have is I can push the board away from me, so I can have more room for documentation to lay here, but then my eyesight is poor, and the further away from me this is, the more of a difficult exercise it is to see and read the top of the board, which is way up there. That's the issue I have with this game. I have contemplated turning the board sideways, so it's this way, and I thought maybe that would be interesting, but I don't know about that either. So I did push this forward because we do need room. We're going to be ruffling through documentation, and I don't want to be messing with the markers here. So we got the room, and we'll have to just leave it at that. This is the problem with the physical. I do have a device that allows me to hang the camera up like this, but then it's very difficult to move, and I don't think it would get us the close-up view that we need. I also have a green screen, so I could take things like cards and slide it into the green screen, so that way it shows up really beautiful. But I actually found that, just bringing it in front of the camera like this is just as good as a green screen. Although the green screen it can be very nice. It's a bit of a pain to set up, but it can be nice. Okay, so getting into the manuals and things that you weren't able to see when we were doing the tabletop simulator. The first one is, these are the 4 sheets that represent our action. So if you're doing a domestic action, this is double-sided, and it has all the information that I was reading to you regarding what our domestic actions are. And then I believe this was the department, or the chief of staff was doing the domestic actions. And then you have your military actions, which the Secretary of Defense was doing. And then you have the diplomatic ones, which the Secretary of State was doing. And then, of course, the Vice President could do any of them. And then you have the presidential ones that only the President can do. And so when I was reading the different actions, these are the 4 sheets that are used. This is a booklet we didn't actually get to. Actually, no, we did. When you do ally and rogue states, that's when you draw one of these. There's an A, B, C, and D. And then within here is, for example, WA1, this is Group A. So we were going through all the steps for Group A and what they needed to do. And so this is actually a good test because we have to go through all these steps. And so I have my camera. It's near the edge of the table, so it could fall off. But for the most part, we can see the majority of the sheet. There's a little bit here at the bottom that I would need to creep up onto the game board for you to be able to see. Or I can back up a little bit like this. But I think we can make this work. And so it would be nice to actually have a second camera set up on another table, like to my left. And then I can just turn that camera on and have this on another table. That would actually be pretty cool. I'm not that fancy. I apologize. So then you can see like Group B is Japan, United Kingdom, and North Korea. So depending on which group is acting, this is the booklet you use for that. This is examples of play. I did not really pay a lot of attention to this, to be honest with you. GMT does do a good job of trying to step you through things, but I don't really care for those very much. So this one, How to Play, I do recommend. This is something you should read before you start because it explains how some of the mechanisms work. It's very short. It's not a big deal. But once you read it, you're done. You don't have to use it anymore. The governing manual is the rule book, and I have referred to this quite a few times. So, like the whole concept of a worsening economy versus an economy improving, it like explains how there's that elasticity thing going on certain tracks. This is a very well written book. This is for when Russia takes its turn. And then this we did in our playthrough already where China took its turn. And then we have domestic charts. And we use this whenever there's things like a domestic crisis. I think we had a scandal we had to go through and deal with a few things. And then you have world charts. I don't remember us. Oh, we used, I think, this for summits. I think. We used it for trade agreements. There we go. We did some trade agreement stuff on here. But there's a lot of information in these. And then the one thing that was available on Tabletop was the turn flip book, which here it looks just as good. And then we have, for setup purposes, we need to use the scenario book. And so, as you can see, there's scenarios for 2001 all the way through 2020. Now, the 2021 is a one-year game. It's meant to be a tutorial. So really the game is 2001 and it ends at 2020. So you got, oh gosh, this is going to be, I know this was Trump. And then that's Biden, or Obama, and then we got Bush, right? That's what that is. So it's Bush, Obama, and then, yeah. And so I had to go backwards because that's how I remember things. There are scenarios that will try to recreate the world climate at that time. Because I tell you what, Bush's era is way different than now in terms of the climate. I mean, China, I think, is a lot more hostile to us than maybe they were back then. And then, Russia is not very friendly with us right now, and we're not friendly with them either. So it's, anyways, you get the gist. But we are doing the core scenario, which is basically a level playing field. It's a sandbox. And so you could say 20 whatever, right? And we're going to do the core scenario. I think it would be interesting to do these. I think these require you to maybe understand the mechanisms of the game a little better. But we'll go ahead and let's let the game play. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So when you open it up, it's going to have a setup for all scenarios. And I'm just going to go through it real quick. This is all the cups that I had set up. And so everything you see here, these are the cups that we already have set up. This is getting all your markers on the boards, which I did. Game turn track, the US action marker, right? And then we're shuffling the 4 tokens. Here, the advance and the bills. So we did confirm that is where they go. And then here, China and Russia are supposed to go on the bottom of the board, but I already know from the scenario we're going to play that Russia goes into our crisis cup. And you'll see this appear later. And then here, shuffle all your cards. And then place counters on this sideboard, which I introduced at the beginning of the game. And then it's talking about, the different counters that are on that board. And we covered the all scenario setup. So now we're getting into the specific core scenario and how to set up the core. And this is the part where we got to slow down a little bit, and it might tell us to change things from, the other. But yeah, you're getting the idea. So this was the part that had me confused before. We have to choose a difficulty level. It explains what the different difficulty levels do. So easy, normal, hard. And I started thinking, okay, I got to start setting up with this. You can pretty much ignore this whole page and just jump into setup because this is just summarizing for you the differences of the difficulty levels. But then when you go here, it actually has how to set up each difficulty level. So it confused me, but I'm an easily confused person. I understand why they did it. Now that in retrospect, it's like, how could they have done it better? I actually like what they did. It's just that I started thinking I had to use this to set up the game. And you don't need to do that. One more thing is there is a note here that says that the hard level is very hard, even for veteran players. If you find it's a bit too much, but you've mastered the normal level, try doing mostly hard. Meaning you pick and choose certain things. And I do love that about this game. I mean, and I can't stress enough, it sounds like the designer did find my video, and I don't know how he did, but, I'm very grateful. Mr. Billingsley was responding to, no, it wasn't Mr. Billingsley. It was, I apologize, I don't remember the name, but one of the designers did comment on the video series, and I really appreciate having him here. And I apologize that I'm butchering and don't remember his name. I just want to say again, I think this game, my impression of it so far is that this is a massive labor of love. The thought of trying to design a game that has this much complexity it's mind-boggling, and it really impresses me that they pulled it off. But with all that said, I just want everybody to understand that when I played the first couple bits and then I quit, I mean, that is usually a sign by me that I don't like the game. For example, Skies Above Britain, you'll notice I played turn 1 and I never recorded again, and I'm not going to. I didn't like that game. I absolutely just, I would sell it in a heartbeat if I could find a fool that's willing to buy it. But with that being said, this one was one where I recorded it and then I stopped. And I just want you to understand that it's definitely not the same impression. I did make the comment several times that this is not my kind of game where a lot of, like, I make a decision and then see what happens to me, because it's a very narrative-driven game. But for whatever reason, this one does the narrative-driven right, if I can say it that way, meaning that I feel like I have enough decision-making that even though there's narrative happening to me, I'm still enjoying it. With that said, this game feels like a full-time job. I know somebody put in the comments that it gets easier, and I think I fully agree with them. Like, once I get more comfortable with this, I'm sure I don't have to read everything as closely as I am when I first start. And it's just fascinating, and I do like the mechanisms. This game has some great mechanisms, and so let me just shut up and let's get going here. So we're going to start with POTUS. So we're going to determine who we are as president. And so we're going to do the normal game, and we have to place 12 positive attributes in the cup and draw 2 randomly. Now, remember how I told you there was 1 negative attribute that made it into my cup? I don't know how. We'll have to punish it later. I actually don't know what I did with my negative attributes. Did I just fail to punch them? Let me check real quick. Maybe I punched everything but that one. See, because they look like this. It's called POTUS attributes. I'm pretty sure I punched them all. Or did I just, or there are a lot of negative, oh yeah, all the negative ones are mixed in. Okay, so here's the deal. There's negative ones mixed in here, but we're not playing the harder game, because there's 4 negative presidential attributes according to this, and we need to draw 2 randomly. They need to be good. So if I draw a negative one, we're just going to draw again, right? And so I don't have like so I'm just going to do this, and then I reach in without looking, right? And I'm going to grab one. I'm going to do this the whole game. So here's the first one. So we got +3 public appeal per turn. And then how many do they say we need to get? 2, right? So let's get another one. I'm going to grab this one. Yeah, that's a negative. Let's get rid of these 2 negatives since we see them. And then we're going to grab this one, which is respected by Congress. We had that one last time. I actually like that one. I actually don't know, like, which ones would I want to have? I think this -1 DRM to crisis rolls would be really impressive. But actually the ones that help you domestically, I think are really good, because I'm going to focus a lot on crisis rolls myself with my actions. So having one that helps me in the areas that I don't normally help myself, like this one, +1 improvement for economy. That's the one I think we had last time. This one I think is very powerful. But there we go. So we're done with those, and we got our 2. And these, of course, will impact our game later, but we're likable and respected by Congress. Those 2 go really nicely together thematically. And then I'm going to put the camera up here. So this is us with our cabinet, and so our 2 attributes go right here. So I guess throughout the game we can eventually get 4 attributes going, but we only have 2 at the moment. So we'll go ahead and go with that. Now, to reach that, I had to stand up and lean all the way across my table. So I'm going to get a nice workout going playing this game. All right, so as you can see, we had, for normal, we did just this 1 line, and then for hard, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and then we skip. And it does say you can pick your own, but we're not going to do that. I think that's a little cheaty, because you could actually, maybe if we played hard difficulty and we thought it was too hard, you know how they were talking about how you can tweak it? If I played hard difficulty, I would maybe want to design my own president, because, you know, it's almost like deck building. You're building your deck to to make it easier on you. Okay, next thing we do is the White House again. We're going to draw our vice president, then select. So we're going to put all the named candidates in a cup, and higher numbers are better. Having a plus action as well was actually really good. The side with the right stripe is the novice side, and that's the side we start with. For the vice president, we're going to draw one counter, and that's it. That's all we get. So we got to hope that's a good one. Then for Chief of Staff and Secretary of State and Defense, we're going to draw 3 and pick one. And then here, it's the same as Chief of Staff. Diplomatic rating higher than 0 is best for the state, and military 0 is best for defense. It's just trying to help you to understand the numbers. And then set cabinet effectiveness to 4. Remember we said we were going to look that up later? So right there, we're going to set our cabinet effectiveness to 4. Yeah. So cabinet effectiveness is this one, and so it goes to 4. Like so. Okay. So these are our cabinet members. The white side is the white at the bottom. That's the novice side. This is it's a little bit more blue. That's not novice. The thing to understand is the left number is domestic. The middle number is diplomacy. The right number is military. And the good news is it's lined up with the way your cabinet members are. So if you ever forget, just look at your cabinet members. Ignore the vice president one, but your chief of staff is domestic. So he's the left one. The Secretary of State is, he deals with international affairs, so he's your diplomacy guy. He's in the middle. And then the Secretary of Defense is your military. He's on the right. So the numbers on the chits line up with the numbers, or line up with the positions there. So the leftmost number is Chief of Staff. The middle number is Secretary of State, and the right number is Secretary of Defense. So I know it sounds silly, but there's many designers who get this wrong and don't, have that kind of elegance. And I just want to say that makes these numbers easier to remember for me, because it's just 3 numbers at the bottom of a chit. They're not labeled. There's no anything. So they're really easy to remember if you just keep that rule in mind. Now, the vice president, of course, he's a little different. He can do any of the actions of those 3. And I think he can do any of the actions of those 3. I'll look it up. In our case, I think we had one that had diplomacy, so he was helping the Secretary of State a lot. But let's see what we get this time around. So let me zoom it back out. Go in and reach. And we are getting Beau Hamilton. Wow. I was going to say, this is a really nice one, but that's the blue at the bottom. He happens to have a 1 and a 1, so this is a pretty good vice president to have. So I'm going to reach across the table, put that on. And so, remember, we don't get a choice with him. So now we're going to do the Chief of Staff. Remember, the left number is the one that matters. We get to draw 3. So here's the first one, and then here's the second one, and I'm not looking through the camera. I'm letting you see, but I'm not looking. All right, so here's the 3. What do we got? We got Bill Hanson. He's a military guy, not a good choice. We got Rick Campbell, who gets +1 action and has the number we're looking for. Rick Campbell looks excellent. And then we got another military one. So boy, did we get lucky. Those 2 military ones would have been horrible. So Rick Campbell is the clear-cut favorite, and he gets +1 action, so I'm very happy with that. That's a good Chief of Staff selection. Even CNN is proud of me. And that was a mostly peaceful riot that burned down a Wells Fargo and a Target. Here we go. So we're going to do Secretary of State. So this is the middle number. So here we go. 1. 2 and 3. All right, middle number. So another military guy, no good. There we go. Krista Holston has a 111, so she's basically good at everything. And a +1 action. I mean, how can you not like her? And then Barry Wallace was good at everything but the one we're drawing for. So once again, we drew 2 bad ones, but 1 really good one. I'm happy with that. And I'm glad they let us do the 3 draw rule. So we got a very effective Secretary of State. And now we drew these military ones every single time. And now we need a military one. And watch us not draw any. Here we go. 3. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. And then here's the third one. First one I'm looking at is not a military guy. This one is military, Bill Hanson. So we at least got something. And actually we got 2 military ones, but neither one of them has +1 action. But we do get to look at the other side, and they both upgrade to be a 2 with no +1 action. So the good news is we at least have a number that favors us. The bad news is there's so many better ones out there, like this one. +1 action with a 1. I mean, this Andy Lewis is like perfect across the board. I know there's other ones. There's that Barry Wallace guy. See, like he actually gets better domestically. And is there any military one that has +1 action? Right here. There's John Long. That's the one you want for military. But anyways, we either want Raul Sanchez or Bill Hanson. Well, being in Minnesota, Bill Hanson is a Minnesotan. And there's like a million of them named that there. Raul Sanchez, though, will help me get the vote and make me look less like a racist. And and it's a sad state of affairs that you have to think that way. Sorry there, I took a bit of a break because my son was making a lot of noise in the kitchen and I just didn't want all that on the recording. So we do have our cabinet members. There they are in all their glory as we start our presidency here. The next step in the process is to take, there's 5 exceptional whatever cards, and because we're playing normal difficulty, we get to draw 1, I believe. Yes. Yes. We get to draw 1. So, who's our exceptional dude? I think they're all good. We have, your cabinet includes one of the most skilled Treasury secretaries in history. So at the start of each turn, we may place 1 improving economy marker on the state of economy track, and also place a cabinet effectiveness improving counter on the cabinet effectiveness track. Once per game, you may ignore 1 revealed event card that is a domestic financial crisis or bank failure. Wow, that is, they're all good. Just put it that way. They are all good. And so now the cards are not completely out of the game because there is room for a second one as we progress through the presidency. But for the first one, the card goes right here. So the problem with putting it there is I can't read it. Like, I need it here to be able to read it. So I'm going to take it away from its designated spot, although there's not a lot of room. But I'm going to try to, like, put it right over here. So that way it's within reach. I mean, I still can't read it over there either, but that's closer to us. Okay, let's keep going. Party relations counter goes to 6. So that's this, and I was correct. It goes on 6. Then our domestic situation. Public approval counter in the 40% box. On the public approval track. This is, what's a 40% box? That's just I guess that's what that 40 represents. Okay, so I need to find the marker for that. Give me a second. Okay, it is found. It is right here. So we have public approval. It looks like there's a state of economy marker. I'm going to go ahead and take that as well. World opinion of the U.S. Relations with Congress. Excuse me. I think we need all of these. So we have all these tracks here. So you can see media relations, homeland security, relations with Congress, and world opinion of us. So these markers, we're going to set those. We're going to get to there. We're not there yet, but what I'm trying to say is, since I saw the markers, I punched them, and they're going to go on those tracks right there. Now, the state of the economy track goes somewhere else. Where does that go? Great question. Why don't I see it? Oh, right next to it. This green stuff. So state of economy goes here. I think it's going to be on 6, but we'll put it there for now. And then the thing we were trying to grab was public approval, and that goes on 40. All right. So put away our stuff. Let's keep going. So next up, it says set the presidential prestige to 6. And then we have our domestic track counters. So the prestige goes to 6. And then the opinion is 5. It's 5, 5, 5, and 6. And then this is on 6. So you have a little picture there. So this goes to 6. This is 6, 5, 5, and 5. And then they have it typed out here. In case you can't read pictures. Place the domestic crisis counter in the 1 box. And place the lingering domestic issues counter in the 1 box on the LDI track. So we got to find those. The domestic crisis counter, it does show you, oops, see, this is what I mean. Oops. What's going on? There we go. My camera dropped. So the domestic crisis counter looks like that. Lingering issue looks like that. This picture, I know it cost them money to put pictures like this in the rule book, but I'm so grateful for that. Anyways, let me see if I can find these. So I'm looking at the, like I can tell you these go over where the Russia and China are, but we'll deal with those later. Nothing there. Nothing. Domestic crisis right here. And then lingering domestic issues right here. All right, so these two are United States box is right here. So this is North America, or CONUS. So our domestic crisis, I think they said goes on the 1, and this goes on the 1. All right, next up is Congress. So we're playing a normal game. Place no control counter. Leave it at split. So that's what we did already. Award yourself 5 legacy points immediately as a handicap. And if we had a harder difficulty, we'd get more. So the legacy point goes to 5, like so. All right, then we're skipping. Determine the American public's priority. Put all the priority counters in a cup. Draw 5 and place them in order in the public legislative priorities boxes on the main map, which is this right here. So then we're going to set our administrative priorities and then draw one randomly. It represents a campaign promise. Then we're going to empty the cup, and then we get to choose. And place the 3 counters representing your choices in 1, 2, and 3, representing our priorities, and then put the remaining back in the cup. So there's 2 different sets of instructions here, but I think we can handle both at the same time. Famous last words, right? So those priorities are way up there, a million miles away, but I do have the cups ready. So here are the public priorities, and they said to draw 5. So again, not looking through the camera. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to draw the campaign promise, which will be this one, and then we get to pick the rest ourselves. So let's hope that they line up a little bit. So the priorities, I know they're supposed to be in order from the way I drew them, but I have them just shuffled in my hand, and I'm just drawing them out one at a time. So welfare reform, Social Security, this one was first, healthcare reform, expanded military, and infrastructure updates. The education reform is the promise, which unfortunately is none of those 5. And then we get to line up. So I think we should do welfare reform. And then we got Social Security. I'm just going to line up with their priorities. We could do healthcare. There's also infrastructure and military. I would like to do the military reform. Expanded military. Right there. Okay, so those are our priorities. When you get past how overwhelming this game is, these are well-written instructions, and it's not super bad. Congressional friends and opponents. So here we have to, so we're doing split party control. So we're going to draw and place 2 friends and 2 opponents. And remember, because we're normal difficulty, they're going to be on their radical side if they have one. And then that's it. So I do have friends and opponents here. So at the top here are the friends. So I'm just going to draw 2. Whoop, I just drew 3. And then we've got the opponents. I'm going to draw 2, like so. All right, so what do we got here? Obviously, this one's going to be Radical, Charles Gates, and Estelle Lamb. I bet she's 14 years old and talks about global warming. All right, and then we got Malaki Taylor, moderate on both sides. So what is the difference between the sides? I guess this person's just always moderate. And then this one's definitely going to be radical, Hugo Torres. All right, so these friends and foes go here. Like so. Okay. Something that's very important for anytime you game, you need coffee. Okay. We got that done. So now it says the initial bipartisan cooperation. If there are more total radicals than moderates, place the cooperation counter in the leftmost 1 box. If they're equal, place it in the rightmost 1 box. And if there's more moderates than radicals, the leftmost 2 box. Well, even though there was a moderate in here, It's radical, 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 so leftmost one. I have to be very careful. I have a tripod that this sits on, and all these markers can get bumped. So that's why I like Tabletop Simulator. Okay, U.S. military. So here we have to now put forces. So there's military forces that are going to go in the, so in each of these boxes, I'm just going to point to the one that's closer to me that I can reach. See, there's this little highlighted or lighter shaded area. That's where the military forces go. So we got to put forces in each spot. And I definitely don't have those punched. And let me show you. There's a whole bunch of military forces here. Special Ops, Army, Intel, Heavy, Army, Carriers, and U.S. Air Force. So for CONUS, which is North America, we got one U.S. Air Force. I need a U.S. Marine Corps, which I'm not seeing on this, so that means they're somewhere else. Oh, there they are. They're on another sheet. One U.S. Marine Corps. And then it says one carrier. And one Special Ops. And one Intel. So all these guys go up here. On CONUS. And we'll just put them all side by side. All right, so now we're going to go through the rest of them here. So then it's, I'll let you take a look real quick. We just did CONUS, but now we're going to go through these following, go in the legislative holding box, and then we're going to, and it explains if you pass and approve funding, you get those added to CONUS. And then if we do security and defense, these get added to CONUS, and so forth. So it's explaining a little bit more, but this is just U.S. military. The world military will be in the world section. So let's finish setting up the military that would get unlocked later. And it says it goes into the legislative holding box. And gosh darn it, I need to find that. Where is the legislative holding box? I will find it, but let's get these punched real quick. So the first thing is we got 2 USMCs, so 2 Marine Corps for when you need an assault. There's nobody better. 3 U.S. Army, light. They're great for holding positions. Although the 101st and the 82nd does air assault through helicopters. They're very good at what they do. U.S. Army Heavy. And 1 Air Force. Always great at intelligence. And then 1 carrier. All right, so these go into the holding box. So now I gotta find where that would be. I see a spot for past legislation. Here. Military assets. Available only when legislative passage. Yeah. So we got 1 carrier. Oh, it even tells us 1. We didn't even have to look. 3 Army Lights, 2 Marine Corps, and it says 2 Heavy Army. I only saw 1. That might be a misprint. Nope, it says 2 Heavy Army. I misread it. There was a word wrap issue on a previous line. There we go. So that's set up. Again, everything has been very easy to understand, intuitive. It's just overwhelming at first. Okay, now we're going to move on to the world section. Set all conflict status markers and relative strength markers at the start setting on the conflict tracks. And that's getting into this left board over here. So I got to find those markers. So we have relative strength here. So we're just going to punch all these. So those are going to... So then we need the status markers. You would think they would have them next to each other, but they don't. There we go. So I think 4 of these are going to be set aside, but the rest of these are going to go on the board. And how do I know 4 is going to be set aside? Well, because you use these for the actual wars that are over on the war board. So I'm pretty sure these 4 are going to go, I mean, you can put them anywhere over there, really. I'm just going to put them like right there. And then watch, I'll forget it later. So then we come over to here. Let me set the camera up. And then I got to stand up so I can read this. So the status marker, for example, is here at the start. So here you can see that's a start. And then this is the start for the relative strength. So relative strength would go there. So you do that for every one. The good news is all you have to do is just read the board. So very easy there. And of course, what it's basically just saying is like between Israel and Iran, you go to war, or they go to war if it gets down to here. So this is their tensions, right? Or how close they are to going to war. And the relative strength, of course, is going to dictate how strong one side is versus the other, relatively speaking. And bam, we used every marker I had, and I have 4 left over because we use the conflict status for each war, and there's 5 possible wars. So if I scoot this over just a little bit, and I put these markers here, like so. So now these would be used if there was a war 2, 3, 4, and 5, and one of them is being used for war 1. Okay, the Iran nuclear program marker and the North Korea program marker at their start on their missile tracks. So we got to find that now. Oh. I'm looking. Right here, North Korea missile program and Iran nuclear program. Those 2 are the ones we're looking for. And those go way up here. So the Iran missile program starts there, and the North Korea one here. So these are the 2 tracks right there, and the other track is right here. Okay, that is done. Set up strategic capabilities with the following values. All right, so now we got to find the U.S. strategic capabilities, the American. Just give me a second. I know I just saw these. Here we go. So every nation, so America, the big three have strategic capabilities. So I'm going to punch all the China ones here. And they're going to look like this, and I'm going to just set them over right by where we just were, and then we'll deal with those in a second. And then we got to get the Russian ones. And it's the same deal. They're all going to the same place. And then we're going to grab the American ones, which are right here. All right, perfect. Okay, so let me grab the camera, move it up. Make sure I'm not moving anything. All right, some of this I'm going to have to read to you again. Air Force Training and Tech, which is this one. The U.S. is at 2. Russia and China are at 1. Ground Forces Training and Tech. U.S. is at 2. China and Russia are at 1. Okay, moving to the next page. Naval Forces Training and Tech. U.S. is at 3. Russia and China are 2. Cyber Warfare. U.S. is 1. Russia and China are 2. Space Warfare. U.S. is 1. China is 2. Russia is 1. Strategic Missiles, or Missile Defense. U.S. and Russia are at 2. China is at 1. Then Strategic Recon. U.S. is 3. China and Russia are 1. So there you go. All that's set up. Next, we're setting up Russia and China. So, first of all, we're on this section of the aid. So we got to do normal game. And we're basically going to be going through these steps. And it shows you a nice picture of Russia and another one of China, which is extremely helpful. So let me move the camera over here so we can see the two. I may have to punch a few pieces here. So Russia's state of economy needs to be set to 4. And I need to find the tokens for that. And I found it. All right. So Russia's state of economy is set to 4, and then China's is at 5. Okay, then the posture for a normal game, it's 2 for Russia. And 1 for China. And the 2 for Russia is what's causing that token to go into the cup, which we did earlier. So 1 multilateral sanction counter, which I have to draw from over here. I'm drawing them randomly, of course. One of them goes onto Russia. And then 2 tension counters on Russia and 1 on China. So again, I'm drawing from the cup. There's 2. And then 1 for China. The hard part about drawing those is that if you draw them number side up, you sort of see it. So I have to, another win for Tabletop Simulator. Then the relation with US goes on the 2 box. So we do that. China's relation with the US goes on the 4 box, like so. All right, so that's it for China and Russia in terms of like setting up their boxes. Now we do have a holding box here, so you can see I put a bunch of influence markers. There's even more that I haven't punched yet. And then of course Russia has their own influence markers as well. But there's actually a whole bunch more China influence. I just punched 6 more. And there's even more I have not punched. But there you go. There's a bunch that's already there, ready to go. And yeah, so let's go into each region. So we're going to go ahead and do normal difficulty on everything. So we're going to start with the Eurozone, which is this one right here. And it's saying that the state of economy marker goes on 5. Regional alignment to 6 and stability to 6. So these are markers I have to punch. So regional alignment is this marker here. It goes to 6 and stability to 6. And regional crisis to 0. And it has a trending pro-US counter, which these markers say anti, and on the other side they say pro. So trending pro-US means it goes here. And what that means is that the alignment is, there's an elasticity rule thing going on, but the alignment is getting ready to move up. Okay. Russia does have influence on it, so 1 Russian influence. And that is very thematic. If I can just find the Russian influence markers. I don't know why I can't. Should be a whole bunch of them. I'm having a total brain fart. I can't find a Russian influence marker. What's going on? I see the Chinese ones. Oh my gosh, they're the other side of the Chinese ones. All right. I am a dodo head. Okay. So I was telling you, yeah, I punched a bunch of these. Look at the other side. All right, so Russia influence goes there. Now I understand why there were so many of these dang markers. Because half are China, half are Russia. So I'll flip them to the other side and put them over here in the box. Yeah, you know, welcome to the Jeff channel. It's never a dull day at the Jeff house. Okay, the NATO and UK ally counters are very close. And I know I didn't punch those. They are right here. Okay, so NATO is very close, and so is UK. The EU zone is definitely our friends, so thank you guys. Sorry, getting more coffee. One Air Force counter. And one Heavy Army. I'm pretty sure that's the 125th Division. And one carrier and one Marine Corps on the Mediterranean, which is here. I'm going to put them side by side so I can see both of them are there. And then these spots represent that they serve all those zones. Okay, next we move to Eastern Europe, which is here. Regional alignment is 6, stability is 5, and crisis is 1. Crisis is 1, stability is 5, alignment is 6. Russia has influence. Of course they do. Level 1 terror group. One civil war, but it's ceasefire. And the U.S. Army Light. The only forces we have. We're pretty weak there. Next up is the Middle East, which is this big region here. All right, it says alignment is 5. Stability is 4. And regional crisis is 3. Good old Middle East. And then an anti-US trend on the alignment. Okay, Israel. Is very close with one tension. Gulf states, Saudi Arabia doesn't get a counter, and they get a tension. One tension counter on the Iran rogue state box. One civil war counter. This represents Syria. Two unstable state counters. That represents everybody in that region. One level 1 and 3 level 2 terror groups. So 2, 3. Russia has influence. Okay, and then for troops, one intel, one spec ops, one Air Force, one Marine, in the holding box. 2 military footprint counters. These, by the way, are not good. They show the disruption that's caused by us having the military in other people's backyards. Yeah, so now we move to Africa. Africa being right below this. Regional alignment is 5. Stability is 4. And regional crisis to 3. China has influence there. Somalia has a civil war going on. Two unstable states seems like way too small of a number. And this is about right. One, 2 level 1s, and 1 level 2 terror group. One US intel. One special ops. And then 1 carrier in the Indian Ocean, which is right here. Central South Asia. And we're getting into this region. Regional alignment and stability are both at 5. Regional crisis at 2. It's trending anti-US. Ever since India took over all of our call centers, and they deal with how rude we are to them, they don't like us anymore. All right. Russia and China are both influencing this region. One level 1 and 1 level 2 terror group. One unstable state. One level 1 rogue state. represents Taliban and allies. So this is a level 1 rogue state, and then War 1 goes on top of it, like that. One tension counter in the India box. One light army. One Air Force. One Intel, one Spec Ops. And one footprint counter, like so. Okay, next is Asia and the Pacific, which is down here in the corner. Alignment is 6. Stability, 6. And then regional crisis is 1. Japan is very close. Australia, very close. Good day, mates. And South Korea, very close. Moving to the next one. One tension in the South Korea. One tension and a UN sanction in North Korea. Where's the UN sanctions? There we go. That's UN goodwill, sorry. UN sanctions, one of these. China, of course, has influence. One level 1 and level 2 terror group. Okay, one U.S. heavy in the South Korea box. And this is there permanently. Cannot be moved. Then one carrier, one Air Force, and one Marine Corps, and the holding box, and then one carrier into Eastern Pacific. Central America. So its alignment is 5, stability is 4, crisis is 2. 5, 4 stability, crisis 2. One level 1. 1 level 2. Terror group. One unstable state. That represents Venezuela. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. 1 intel and 1 spec ops. These represent the drug cartels, which there are definitely plenty. And okay, last but not least, South America. Regional alignment 5. So we just move the camera down, make sure I don't bump any things. Regional alignment is 5. The stability is 5. And the crisis is 1. And then we said that there was a, China already has an influence there. And then a level 1 terror group. And then 1 unstable state, and that's the Venezuela one. Okay, then there's CONUS, which I thought we did CONUS, but we're going back to there. So Canada gets a very close. Good way A, and holds our military forces as described above. All right, so they're just reiterating what we already did. Okay, so Canada is very close. So I know we need to update the counter track for, and I think we just use one of these markers. I'm going to punch 2 more. So this is the influence in the region, and I'm pretty sure China has 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Russia should also have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're both at 4. And if they move up and if Russia gets to 9 influence and China gets to 15, we could lose game. So we got to be mindful of how much influence they have. And then for the wars, yeah, we begin with 1 war against the Taliban. And we set up the conflict status to stalemate. I have components everywhere. So conflict status is set to stalemate. Conflict type is combined air and ground. U.S. at war counter in the attack. ISIS at war in the defender. I say Taliban at war. Is that different than ISIS at war? I'm checking. Yeah, I don't see an ISIS at war token. So, I mean, they both mean the same thing in some respects. Although the ISIS was more than just the Taliban. That's fine. We got it covered. We know what we're doing. Okay, and then 2 regional UN troops 2 strength counters. 2 of them, not just 1. So 2 of these go here for a strength of 4, and then a 4, just a straight up 4 counter And then what's interesting, they would have a war in the Middle East versus ISIS if we were on hard difficulty, which I think is pretty cool. There is an ISIS at war counter according to this. So maybe there is an ISIS at war and I'm just missing it. I see Israel, Balkan states, NATO, Japan, UK. Yeah, I don't see ISIS at war. Like, what's the other side of this? It says Taliban at war on both sides. So if there is an ISIS at war, I don't see it. There's a whole bunch of rogue states at war, which is what I think you would probably use instead, and you'd be just fine. But it's okay. We're not playing hard. Difficult. Oh, there's a couple more here. Pakistan at war, Hamas at war, Serbia. There it is. I actually found an ISIS at war. So there is an ISIS at war token. There's also an Al-Qaeda at war. So several different ones, but we're okay. We got it all covered. Then there's an optional random war if we want to add even more. I think one war is more than sufficient. Then we construct the crisis deck. So basically it's telling us to shuffle all the event cards, which is this guy right here. And then divide them into 4 roughly equal stacks. This is where tabletop wins in a heartbeat. So that's pretty close to an equal. Looks like I got 1 card too many on one side. And then I'll move a card over. There we go. Those are 4 equal. So you're 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remove a number of cards from each stack as follows. Year 1, remove 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there we go. We got our year 1 cards. Year 2, remove 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Year 3, remove 15. And year 4, remove 18. Okay, what I like about this, and any game, designers definitely need to be mindful of this. Look at all the cards that are not in this game. So if I were to play this again, look at all the events that I'm not experiencing, that I'm going to possibly experience next time I play. This is critical for any replayability to be worthwhile, is to have a lot of cards that are not used in each game. So that way you get different experiences. And I know it's not a novel concept, but there's a lot of board games out there that don't do this. And so, anyways, these cards are out of the game. The ones that were not used. We got year 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we still have to form the deck. So then we got all the natural disasters, and 1 needs to be placed. So these are the natural disasters. So I'm going to just flip it over. And 1 needs to be placed face down in each of the 4 stacks. So 1, 1, 1, and 1. And I think the rest, they don't go out of the box, but they basically, if we need to draw a natural disaster, they're there because an event might cause us to draw 1. And then it says, what do you want to do for difficulty? Of course we want to play normal. So we need to shuffle all the terrorism cards, which are the black, and randomly place 3 in the first year. And 3 in the second year. And then 2 in year 3 and 2 in year 4. And then the other news ones could come up as part of a event. Then the cascading events, we're going to shuffle all of them and place 4 in year 1, 4 in year 2, 3 in year 3, and 2 in year 4. And the unused will be face down near the game board, and we'll draw these later. Now, I know we're going to end up drawing some to start the game, but basically, next we take a exceptional White House card. So remember we had those exceptional White House cards that we originally drew from, and it goes into the year 2 stack. So there's only 4 of them to choose from, so I'm going to choose this one right here, and it's going to go into here. I hope you're a good one, mister. And we draw you soon. And then we shuffle each of the 4 and we put them on their spot on the game board. So that's going to take me a little bit to shuffle. And then we're going to seed the cascading events next. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and spare you from watching me shuffle, but let me shuffle and get these on the board. My biggest gripe is when you're designing a game, don't put the cards the farthest away from, but they always do that. They're always at the top of the board. And I mean, I guess maybe you want to see your counters or whatever closer to you, but I think the cards should be closer to you because you need to read them. Anyways, I'll be right back. Okay, voila. We got our cards shuffled. They're year 1, 2, 3, and 4 up there at the top. So now we're going to seed the cascading events, which is this section right here. And basically, this was the part that was a little challenging before. We have to ignore any tension on cabinet focus events. And then ignore all public approval results. So if there's any changes there. And ignore any instructions to spend action points. So we don't have to do that. And when you finish performing these events, place each card in the 2 space on the game board. And this will simulate cascading events. And just a reminder, cascading events are, when you draw it, you do the top left. And then after it's resolved, it goes into these different buckets. So there's a 2, a 3, and then a D means discard. And there's a spot on the board for cascading 2 and cascading 3. Or there should be. Oh, I see. I screwed up. So these decks of cards are even further away. So this is year 4. This is year 3. And this is year 2. And then the cascading event, that's a reshuffle pile. This is 2, and then 3, and then of course there's a discard. Minor point, but still important. And so it's telling me that for a normal game, we're going to draw 2 of these cards. So let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2. And we just have to remember not to switch to resolve them in full. And put them in the 2 spot. So we're going to look at the first one here. So it's Iran subverts Gulf stability. Always a good time when Iran's involved. So we have to place a new unstable state in the Middle East. That part we can do. So the Middle East now has a 3rd unstable state. +1 regional crisis in the Middle East, which puts them in the major crisis section. I don't know what that means for us, so I'm going to have to look that up. Place 2 tension counters on Iran and Saudi Arabia. So 2 are going on to Iran, which they now have 3 total. And Saudi Arabia is also going to get 2, which is down here. And what happens when this moves to the major crisis? I know things happen. I don't know if they're going to happen immediately. That's going to be interesting. Let me look that up real quick. And just so you know, in case you're trying to follow at home, the governing manual is what I would look at. I'm not going to pause it yet, but so we're looking at domestic, diplomatic, the world arena, regional crisis. For page 29 is where I would start. And right here, major regional crisis is page 30. So let's look at it together, figure out what it means. So here it's explaining the track, which we have definitely been using. And then 30. When a major regional crisis occurs because the regional counter has moved past 3, roll for a major crisis in WD1. So we're going to look at another book to do that. Once you've applied the results from that roll, move the crisis back to 2. Major and regional crisis can reduce stability of the region, cause terror groups, or lead to unstable states or civil wars, and possibly instigate a refugee crisis. They are to be avoided if at all possible. Thank you, previous president, for creating a crisis for me to deal with. But that's what we're going to have to do. So WD1. Now, what does that mean? And this is the reason why I moved away from tabletop. So as much as I was talking about how great tabletop was, this is why I moved away, because I can't show you what I'm seeing here. But there's these world charts book, and WD1 is right here. So they do a great job of referencing what you need to do. And then, of course, it's titled Regional Major Crisis, in case you still had doubts. And we're going to go to page 2. I'm just going to open this up to page 2. And we're going to put this down so I can move the camera. And so right here, there's a table here. And we're going to roll a die and just do whatever it says. Now, there are some DRMs. DRM stands for die roll modifiers. So we're going to have to move this up and down based on other factors. And so let's roll our die, and then we'll figure out what the die roll modifiers are. So here we go. I rolled a 9. Usually a low number is better. 9 is not good. But right now, if we're at the 9 box, it's going to decrease regional stability, and then there's some more stuff I'm not going to read yet. Because I want to make sure, so right here, what is the regional stability for the region? It is a 4. So it gets reduced if they have good regional stability, which they don't. We get to add to it. So if it's a 4, we're going to add +1. So that 9 becomes a 10. And then if there's a very close ally in the region, which there's Israel. So now it becomes a 9. Then +1 if there is a civil war in the region, which there is. So now it's back to a 10. +2 if there's at least one war other than civil war, which there is not. Then +1 per game created rogue state in the region. There is not any rogue states that's game created. And right here, if you're a new player, just do -1. So I think overall we ended at 10, which is still the same box. So it did move up, but not enough. So we're going to decrease the stability by 1, which that is not cool. So stability is going to drop to 3. This trending marker is for the alignment, not for the stability. If there's a U.S. ally in a region, decrease one ally relationship. So that means that well, technically, yeah, we actually have Israel and Saudi Arabia. We're both close. So now we're going to have to determine which one. I'm going to use a 6-sided die. 1 to 3 is Israel. And we drew Israel. So we lose the very close with Israel. So now we're down to close. Place a trending anti-U.S. counter in the region. So what that means is that since there's already a trending, this is actually going to drop to 4. So the whole Middle East is acting like, frankly, it always acts, like jerks. That reduced. So I'm going to keep these trending markers somewhere. I'm going to put them right here because we just need them handy to pull when we need them. And that's it. Now there's a possible refugee crisis. So now we got to go read this nonsense. If the region is Eurozone, if it's the Middle East, which it is, the expanding crisis creates a flood of refugees fleeing to Southern and Western Europe. Make a stability check for the Eurozone. I rolled a 5. So, the stability in the Eurozone is 6. So a stability check is you just needed to roll that or lower. So we rolled lower than a 6, so we pass. So +1 to their regional crisis. So they're currently at 0. So they get a, oops, I bumped my dog trying to stand up here. They move to +1. All right, so the government manual did its job. Yeah, this is all. Yeah, and that's it. So +1 to regional crisis, and that's all that happens. So not the best thing in the world, but yeah, that is done. So then this cascading event goes into the 2 spot. And then if we ever draw it again in the 2, we're going to do this part. And then, of course, it goes to the 3, and then that happens, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to go ahead and, it's another stand up to reach across the table. So that goes into the 2. Now, the developer told me that these are face up, like not face down, because I can come in and try to resolve these. Like, I don't know how do you resolve a cascading event? Like, I guess maybe there's something you can do to make this go away. I just don't know what that would be. So, like, this is the otherwise part. So, C stands for crisis. Yeah. So I don't think this is one I can make go away, is what I'm getting at. So I'm going to go ahead and, but anyways, it's face up, according to the designer. Then we got our next one, which is economic crisis in China. Banks over-leveraged. Stock and asset values plummet. Liquidity crisis. Decrease China's SOE track by 1 box. So their state of economy actually drops a whole box. It doesn't even get a marker. Place a -1 action point counter on China. This is actually a good event. Now there are action point counters. Bear with me because I know I saw them. Here they are. So we have these action point counters here, right? And I think there's one that's specifically for China and Russia. Give me a second to look again. Yep, right here. So this is +1 action point China and -1. So I'm going to give them a -1. And what that means is it just goes into their box. So when it's their turn, they're going to get 1 less action point. So like I was saying, this is actually good for us. And again, once again, I'm going to use this like box here to just store some of these tokens that we're going to be using. So that so far has been really good. Let's see here. Place a worsening economy counter, because of course we're not immune to their economy. So we got to grab a worsening economy counter. And I know I haven't punched those yet, so where is it? Where'd you go? I know I saw this 100 times. I feel like I'm going mad. Oh, that's because it was underneath the rule book. Here it is. So there is a economy improving or economy worsening. And so what we're going to do is, obviously, if we get another one of these counters, then our economy will drop by 1. So yes, we're never immune to what happens in China, but that definitely helps us more than it hurt us. And I believe that covers everything. So we had 2 world events. Last time we had domestic events, like there was a scandal and all this other stuff. So very interesting how the events can vary. So both of these are world And we'll put that up there. I don't think there's anything I can do to get rid of that one either. So face up, like we were requested. All right, so next, we're done. We are ready to get started. This is always long, and I know we just went through this twice, right? Because we went through this on Tabletop Simulator, and now we're going through it again with the physical copy of the game. So my apologies, but I did warn you guys to skip this video. I did want to show you real quick, though. Like, for example, if you wanted to do George W.'s first term here, you can see, September 2001. This has to do with, we had the 9/11 crisis, and there's some victory conditions here. And you can see the domestic situation, like everything is being set up a certain way to be more specific to how we were historically at that time. I think it's super awesome that they had these scenarios, and he went through the trouble. When I say he, I know there was more than one designer, but that they went through the trouble of doing that. Obviously, it adds an extra flavor of challenge because 9/11 was quite the thing to deal with. And this is a very well constructed book. I cannot complain at all about this. I misunderstood it when I first was on my first impression because I was trying to set up when all it was doing was just informing me. But fantastic book. And again, on Tabletop Simulator, you don't get to see this. So that's why I wanted to be able to show you. And yeah, even with me showing you, I'm still, reading it and then moving the camera elsewhere. But anyways, we don't need this now for the rest of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and set this off somewhere else because my number one thing about playing this game is I just want to show you. I got my punch counters. I have a whole bunch of booklets here. I have a whole bunch of booklets there, and I have another booklet back there. And then don't worry about this stuff. This is from my Oathsworn playthrough. I am still playing Oathsworn for those of you that are sad that I'm not continuing my playthrough. I'm playing it multiplayer, and my group comes over all the time to play. I do love that game. I'm sorry I'm not covering it more. Maybe once I finish it multiplayer, I can cover it some more with you. It's a lot more fun to play multiplayer, if you ask me, just because it's nice to have the help. There's a lot to manage. Anyways, back to this game. We're getting ready to play. So thanks for watching. As always, stay awesome.